Hey everybody, Anthony Fantano here, internet's busiest music nerd, and it's time for a review of the new Libertines record, Anthems for Doomed Youth. This is the latest full-length LP from the breakout British band that hit it pretty big in the mid and late 2000s, and they have been studio album silent for the past 10 years, despite starting off pretty strong with their full-length debut. However, the band's very volatile, personal issues and member dynamics kind of shot their career in the foot a little bit. However, the band seems to have gotten their act together, and now they're performing together again and recording together again. Hopefully it lasts, and obviously it's lasted long enough to get this album together. So in listening to this album, I didn't want to just talk about it by myself. I have invited Joel, aka the Daily Guru, to come on and discuss this new Libertines album with me. We are going to use the power of the internet to transition to that discussion. Transition, and here we are through the magic of the internet. Joel of the Daily Guru is here talking with me about this new Libertines record. Joel, what'd you think of this album?
I think if I had to sum it up in 2 words, it would be pleasantly surprised. I was pleasantly surprised with how long a break they took off, that this wasn't just a complete disaster, especially considering the people involved.
Really, Joel, we're going to call it a break. We're going to call it a break. That seems to be putting it nice.
I want to put it nicely. I feel like with these guys, there's so much you can say, but it's been said a million times that, I just kind of want to concentrate on where they are, not what's been going on pretty much since they first appeared on the scene. We know why they were on a break and why they weren't really playing with each other. And we know why Pete looks the way he does right now. But I was pleasantly surprised with how the overall product sounded. It didn't sound super dated. They didn't sound old. It sounded fresh, and that really was good for me.
Okay, I mean, it's safe to say that I think a lot of us weren't really expecting another record, maybe ever again. But now that they're back together and they're playing again and they've recorded this record, you're surprised with the quality of the record.
Yeah, especially, I saw that the guy who produced this one, they stopped using Mick Jones, and as a huge Clash fan, that to me was a huge red flag. I was like, why would you stop with a guy like that? And I believe the person who did produce it produced for One Direction and Lady Gaga and people like that. So this to me could have gone really bad for so many reasons. And I'm not saying it's good because it wasn't bad. I felt that this was a record of two sides. I really didn't care for the first half, which we can get into. The second half to me, though, was a very, very cool album that I will play again and again.
Yeah, I can agree with you that the album definitely did not sound dated, and maybe moving to another producer, with those kind of credentials is part of the reason why the record doesn't have sort of an older sound to it. Even though, we can look back to their debut record and their sophomore and quintessentially, see those very much as 2000s records. There were a lot of sounds on those albums that sounded like throwbacks to a lot of older, English punk and post-punk.
Yeah,
and I don't is relatively free of that for the most part.
Kind of. I really really like Barbarians definitely had a New Order feel to it, maybe even a bit of the sound for people who know that band.
On the record.
Yeah. And then actually there were a couple times where it almost sounded to me like they were ripping off The Wall, as in Pink Floyd's The Wall, just in the overall mood, specifically the song Nobody's Home on I think that's the third side. The Milkman's Horse really resonated with that, just kind of the dejected vocal that you get there. And then
really? You like that track?
I dig it. And Dead for Love, the last track, really, to me, I just said, this is screaming like they've been listening to The Wall way too much.
To me, the Milkman's Horse didn't really read as Floyd or anything like that. I don't know if you were saying that was the case, but it didn't read to me as Floyd as much as it did like Radiohead's Creep, but with way less like depression and almost as if they're just like imbuing less sadness into it. It just kind of felt like a very mild take on a very similar chord progression.
Yeah, I mean, I think that they weren't as heavy a nod to some of those older bands, and they weren't as frequent. You know, I don't want to say it sounds like a new band, but a lot of those old tracks is really like, okay, we get it. You're into these bands, we know. They kind of broke away from it a bit, but I definitely felt like, okay, they're still doing it enough. The track, the title track actually to me was a rip off on the riff of Sixpence None the Richer's "Kiss Me." I'm sure a lot of people are really thinking about that when they think about the Libertines, but I couldn't get it out of my head while I was listening to that song that it was the same thing on so many levels.
Yeah, I mean, there were a lot of moments on this record where the influences on the songs were really obvious, but I think there were at least a handful of moments where I think the songwriting and the balladry on these tracks are really good. I really did like the closer, just like you did. And I don't know if you cared for Waterloo as much as I did. That was definitely a standout as one of the best ballads on the entire record. Like, you know, definitely a supremely sad song and a track that read as very sad, which, you know, was important for me because I think a lot of the other tracks on this record, I don't think the emotions translated quite as powerfully as they did on this track.
Yeah, I agree. Waterloo, I felt like it would have been the perfect closer to the whole album. And so I thought maybe that was like the end of the first side on the vinyl version, but I checked and it's actually not. I really like the mood on that. And I think kind of with what you were saying, the lyrics on this record are a lot better than the music. And I think that some of the lyrics, they just fall short because the music isn't there. The mood isn't captured because the music just, it comes up short.
And I think maybe where it comes up shortest are on a lot of the upbeat and peppier tracks, with maybe the exception of Barbarians. I thought that was a great start to the record. They sounded way more explosive than I ever anticipated that they would. But there were other cuts on here, like I don't know, the second half of the first half of Belly of the Beast, which really just fell apart for me. And then once they actually brought things up to a higher temperature in the second half, I was kind of like, okay, you know, maybe a little bit, little too late on that. And then I think Glasgow Coma Scale Blues, had to refer to my notes to remember that song title. I feel like that was one of the handful of moments on the record where the band has the kind of usual ragtag sloppiness that made them so charming during the old days, but the energy isn't there. So it just kind of sounds sloppy and droopy and just like not quite as exciting. I like the guitars on that one. Like a dangerous combo for me, you know, just that lack of cohesion together with the lack of energy just is not a good look. You know, if you know, you're sloppy, but you're putting everything into it, you know, that's one thing. You know, you're just wild and all over the place and out of control. But, you know, to sort of be sloppy and just kind of is just not that captivating.
Yeah, I felt like Belly of the Beast, it didn't take off. And I also felt the next song, Iceman, it was waiting to explode. To me, it came off like an acoustic demo that they never really finished. And when it does get that rise, it's too late. And also I felt like the lyrics on that one were a bit too heavy-handed with, you know, don't spend your days in haste. We got it. We know what most of these songs are about. But I you know, the Glasgow Blues, let's just call it that. I liked the guitars on it. I really liked the guitars. I thought it had a solid riff to it. But, you know, I think kind of like with Iceman, it felt unfinished to me. And they kind of sat in this middle ground on a number of songs where they didn't want to get, when they were quiet and it was moody, we know they can do that well and they continue to do that well. But whenever they turned it up, they only kind of got it once or twice for me.
Yeah. No, I agree. You know, I just think this record is just a little mixed for me. I mean, there are some great standout ballads here, and I like that. You know, it seems like there are some moments here, like on Waterloo, like on the closer here. There are some moments of real maturity, things, you know, sort of little growth spurts that I think that we just never got the opportunity to watch the Libertines really grow into, with just them being silent for so many years, unfortunately. And, you know, we're getting those little whiffs of maturity now, but it's just delayed, unfortunately. And there are some spots that do sort of call back to the more energetic days. Like I said, the opener, Fame and Fortune, as well. the track Fury of CHONBURI, which
Sure, we'll go with that.
had like this classic kind of English snottiness to it coming through on the vocals. It was a really, pretty tight, upbeat track. But then, there were a lot of moments where I feel like the band's, I don't know, rustiness has kind of caught up with them a little bit as far as the music side of things. I mean, lyrically, like you were saying, there's some interesting moments on this record where obviously they're referencing the band's kind of volatile past. And for hardcore fans, I think that's going to be really interesting, but don't go into this thing and be surprised if not every tune here resonates with you, because some of the songs here can be just a little meh.
Yeah, I wrote that down a lot. I was just like meh on a number of them. Also, with Fame and Fortune, I wasn't a huge fan. I felt like it sounded like the song right before it, Gunga Din. And for some reason, I also had the Oompa Loompas from Willy Wonka marching around in my head. I felt like, I don't know, something about it just didn't.
Those two tracks sound really similar to you?
Yes, they did. They certainly did.
The track had a strong reggae vibe, though.
Yeah, and I felt, well, with Gunga Din, they were clearly giving a nod to The Clash. It really had that kind of, which is nothing new for them. But, I felt like they sounded a bit too similar for me. And Fury, though, was probably my second favorite song on the record. Solid riff, and when it came on, I said, yes, this is what I've been looking for this entire album. And I think that's why it anchored the second half of the record so well. The first half of the record I probably won't go back to, but the last 6 songs, overall, I will definitely listen to them again. I really, really enjoyed it.
All right. Overall, I mean, I thought this record was decent. I'm not too crazy about it, though. Mostly sort of indifferent. I'm sort of feeling like a strong 5 to a light 6 on this thing. I don't know if you're enjoying it more than me, though.
Yeah, the first side to me got about a 2, but the second side got a 5. So I'll average it out and say I give it strong 6. Strong 6. I will listen to the second half of this record for sure.
Okay. Well, Joel, thanks again for coming on and talking to me about this new Libertines record, dude.
Not a problem. Always a pleasure.
I will link you guys to Joel's YouTube channel down in the description box, and he will probably be talking with me about many different rock albums into the future. And yeah, that's it. Anthony Fantano, Joel, Daily Guru, Libertines, Review, forever.